This is the street now. Years ago when we were kids. One Easter, this is me. Playing with the kids on my street. This is my mom here. This is the first car I bought her. That's on the street. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen on the street. We had this house red and white at one time. This was the inside of this house, red and white. Trimmed in red and white. It was much different then. February the 10th. Recently, we met with the representatives from the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authorities of the City of Philadelphia, RDA, to discuss relocation benefits. As you are aware, the RDA is contemplating condemnation of the above referenced property.
They're taking my land, and I'm aggravated. I'm a little more than aggravated.
We didn't know anything. It was a surprise. They just came with paperwork, and that was it.
There's this environment that our community is ripe for the taking.
We all worry that we're going to wake up in the morning and get a letter.
No one could believe that in America, the city could take your house to give to somebody else to make money.
Well, at this point, I have resigned to the fact that I'm going to move.
The history of Philadelphia, like the history of any great city, is written in stone for anyone to read. Each of its great towers is a monument to the changing city. Tall and flashing walls rise from the center of the town, imagined and built according to a plan 3 centuries old.
But what's the real city? Isn't it more than museums, more than smoke out of a steel mill? The city's people. All the fine people you see every day. The city is more than stone.
Well, I came home one day in May. A letter was in my house, and it says that we have acquired your property. And I'm saying, well, I haven't sold anything. And I said, I just thought it was a bad joke, because it didn't come through the mail. It was just like somebody, you know, just sending out literature. So I threw it up there on top of the record player and said it's a bad joke. Then the next day I came home, there was one in the mail. Now I have to take a look at it, and they're saying that they want my home. My house was already determined who it was going to go to when my papers reached my door. How you have my house and you ain't gave me nothing? But you're telling me you have my home. And at some point, I have to leave here.
This has been my home since 1949. Just trying to make it comfortable for me because I'm 65 years old. I put a new front on my house. I had no idea that I had to move. It's a lot of emotional problems, not problems, but anxiety about having to start all over again somewhere else.
Every tree, every repair that you see here, the residents did. This is not the city helping us out. We did this. Back there, they have pottery that's exquisite. Some of it is here. Some of it her own family does. Look at this. I mean, this little garden could be in Alfred's Alley, and they were going to take a house on this block. But that's what's going down. We have beauty, we have comfort, we have safety. This is Bodine Street, and I will try to paint a verbal picture that'll be hard to imagine. in terms of where the way it looks now. This was beautiful green gardens. All kinds of vegetables were grown there collectively by the neighborhood. This house was cute as could be. In 3 months, the houses that you'll see down the street were demolished completely. This block was vibrant. And this blight was caused by the city. This was not caused by the residents. This blight is a product of the city basically pushing people out. This was the first block that we learned about was going. None of us could believe it. We found out by accident last September of 2002. This block had activities together, they farmed together, they parked together, they cleaned together. These neighbors did not have any notice that the city was taking their house until after the law was passed to take their house. There were notices in newspapers, I presume, to take the houses, but all of this block was Spanish speaking.
This community is under threat. Its very survival is in jeopardy. And its very survival is in jeopardy because city policy is effectively that the people here don't matter, that they're not paying enough in taxes, that it's blighted, and 40 or 50 years, however long it's been, of blight, has proven just the fact that that blight has remained here. That's essentially proof that this neighborhood is never going to change. And so the only way to improve this neighborhood is by destroying as many houses as you can, bringing in new people who have resources, significant resources, to help renovate the rest of it, drive out the poor folks, and that's going to improve the tax base. It's the classic justification for gentrification that cities around the globe are using.
The upheaval of populations is profoundly disturbing because people develop roots. As they live together, as they settle into a place, as they have a way of life, it's what some people have come to call dwelling. So they live together quietly, peaceably, going about their business, deepening each year their interconnections. When you disturb all that, you disturb the roots of the people. And what follows is what I've come to call root shock, taken from plants. When you transplant a plant, it goes into a period of shock, which is actually life-threatening. And when you transplant people, they too go into root shock, both as a community, because you're destroying the community, and as the individual. And if we aren't extremely careful in moving people, they too can die.
Do your condemnee. Right? The city has plans to take your house, or may not have plans to take your house. If you have any questions, call this number, which was a black hole in the city government somewhere. Right. And this is how they were telling people.
Sometimes urban renewal laws, and I'm sure Pennsylvania is the same way, have very strict requirements of what you have to do in order to do it. And if you don't jump through the necessary hoops for it, the notice requirements could be invalid or something like that, and condemnations could be dismissed as a result.
There's either a formula and a policy or there's not. It shouldn't be, we'll offer you the minimum, and if you're smart enough to come after us, maybe we'll give you a little more. Yeah. But don't tell anybody else, because then everyone else will be doing it. That's ridiculous, right?
Because they think they could buy and sell people that if they have a high enough price, then people are going to move. And that's not human. I mean, we are not commodities. We are human beings that have a life and lifeblood to us, and there's sort of this thing, we could sell people, and if we give them a high enough price, and they're, it'll be fine.
It's not a high enough price.
Well, I think that they think that we can sell people anyway.
When they come to mind, I know that if I'm alive, I'm not going to move. They'll have to bomb it or take it out, but I will not move because I don't want to.
Some people don't want to go. They want to go. Some people want to sell their homes. And some people aren't attached to their homes, they feel like, or their business, they feel like, I like it, but somebody makes me a good deal, you know, I'll go. Other people, you know, are maybe somewhere in the middle. And
It
some
should be
people,
your choice.
exactly. And some people say, my home means everything to me. It's where I grew up. It's all my memories are there. It's my place. And you know, my house isn't for sale. My business isn't for sale.
This whole thing is very developer driven and very council person driven. The council people have tremendous power under the NTI thing, which is well, all this is falling under the NTI thing, to basically make lists. They literally made lists of properties that they wanted the city to acquire. And those lists generally came from developers, mostly nonprofit developers, CDCs, coming to a council person and saying, we'd like to do some development over here. We need this list of properties to acquire. Will you go get them for us? And the council people had tremendous powers to say yay or nay to that stuff. And they were mostly saying yay. And it wasn't a rational process. It wasn't a plan. Let's you know, it wasn't even, like you were saying, the blight removal, you know, even that was somewhat rational, right? They thought there was blight, let's get rid of it. But this NTI stuff, there's been no plan. It was basically, wow, there's all this money. People scrambled. They thought they could get land. They thought they could get development dollars. They went nuts. They went to their council person. They tried to get deals done. And that's where it's all coming down.
When you are getting evicted from your home and you're a person who's 75 years old, that's a crime. To be thrown out in the street at the age of 75 after you've given everything you had to a society and all you ask is that you be housed, that you be fed, that you be clothed, that you worked your whole life, and now in this age that you can't be protected, you know, that's a crime.
These people have the law in their own hands. The law's on their side. It says that houses and land have to be kept decent and clean. The housing code has made provisions to take care of sanitation and repairs, and the code provides penalties for violations. Under the law, these must be wiped out.
In 1949, Congress passed this law called the Housing Act, which gave cities money to clear land that was blighted. What happened was the following. So the government funded cities to scoop out old land, and the people who were there were dispersed in various directions. But as many of them were African American, the neighborhoods that they moved to were also ghetto neighborhoods, slightly better off than the blighted neighborhoods, but not much. But because they were African American, once they moved there, those neighborhoods became segregated neighborhoods and were redlined for investment, which means money was not invested in those neighborhoods. That means that those neighborhoods began to deteriorate and fall apart. So what's going on in Philadelphia is happening in these neighborhoods that were red line neighborhoods to which people were forced to move after urban renewal in the city. And when the people move from these neighborhoods, the odds are that they will move to other rickety neighborhoods teetering on the brink of decline, which will also be redlined for investment, so that we will be setting up the next wave of clearance in 10 or 20 years from now. So the process that we saw in 1949 is the underpinning. It's the fundamental predecessor of what we're seeing now.
In the 1940s and 50s, the government started engaging in urban renewal projects. This was sometimes well-intentioned, sometimes not so well-intentioned efforts to clean up the cities, to transform the cities, and to try to help the people that were living there. And in 1954, in a case which involved an urban renewal project, the U.S. Supreme Court upheld the constitutionality of the use of eminent domain for urban renewal. And they said, yes, it says public use, but we're going to read that to mean public purpose. And who could be opposed to the great public purpose of revitalizing the cities? Slum clearance was the term that was used at that time. Blight removal. Of course, this turned out to be a disaster that many cities have not been able to recover from. But the precedent had been set. And the government was able to use eminent domain because what the court said was that the removal of blight was the public purpose that was being served. So if the property was transferred then to another private owner, we're not going to be so concerned about that. what happened in the wake of that decision is that governments became more aggressive about using urban renewal laws, about using blight. First it was used in areas that were truly run down, pretty bad neighborhoods. Then it was used in not so bad neighborhoods, or neighborhoods that were maybe half run down and half fine. And now it's being used in areas that are perfectly fine, except they might have older homes or something like that. But the real reason why the laws are being used this way is because the government wants the property. They want to give it to a developer. So blight is oftentimes now in the eye of the beholder, but the government wants it to be declared blighted because with blight comes the eminent domain authority.
This is what I call my breakfast room, where we sit down here and we have breakfast. Here's where I cook at. This is where I live. See, I ain't trying to put everything away so you make me think I'm the neatest person in the world. And this is my upstairs. Now this bathroom, I just put in here. I just had this put in here. So, you mean all my hard work is in vain? I want you to turn around and look at the eminent domain, none for me. You see all these books over here? Notes that I found of organizing names and addresses, people of importance, people of non-importance. This has been an office for me for real. Over here is where the section that they want to take. I keep it on the door so I remind myself every day this is not my house no more, because I thought it was mine. But now I know it's theirs. On the back of the door, there is your plans. Here are the plans. Right there. Now this is my bedroom. And I come in here and I want to be comfortable just as I am. Now, can you see me living in a senior citizen's home?
No.
Okay? I took the time to try to make things right for me. Now, this might not be the best looking place or the most comfortable place, but I know it's also not the worst place. I didn't know city was taking people homes. I didn't know about city taking people homes until they want to take mine. This is something that most people are not aware of. Because when you say it, they say, "What are you talking about, girl? They can't take your home." And I tell them that I went to the internet to learn how much power they have over you. I learned the background, why eminent domain was started, and from back in the day. Now, Jesse James, we all thought he was a bank robber. But they took their property, and that's why he went around shooting up banks and robbing the banks and trains, because they ran the railroad through his property and took his parents' stuff. So eminent domain has been around, but it's on the quiet side.
Eminent domain was not fully explained. When we first got the mail, I didn't understand what it was all about. And it took several months to get the understanding. And I did a lot of research. I went to the library to read up on eminent domain. And I realized that I had no control over it when they wanted to take my home.
eminent domain was intended to be, before the 50s, a way in which the government, any government entity, federal, state, local, could expropriate private property for the public use. Over the years, it's been prostituted to define public use as public benefit. That some opaque way, the benefits of what they choose to use the land for that is expropriated will trickle down amorphously to the public.
There is a nationwide epidemic of eminent domain abuse, and by eminent domain abuse, I mean the government taking property from one private owner and handing it over to another private owner that the government happens to favor. But the first Supreme Court case that looked at this referred to it as the despotic power of government. They said that this is the power of a despot to say, you must give up your home, you must give up your land. And so the founders recognized that, and they said, this is such a power that can be so easily abused. Because, you know, eminent domain is one of the most serious things a government can do to a citizen. Apart from putting you in jail or maybe executing you, taking away your home, taking away your business is about as serious a thing as a government can do to you. So that's why they were concerned about this, and they made sure that certain protections were written in to the Constitution to preserve people's rights, recognizing that sometimes it had to be used, sometimes it was legitimate, but it was going to be limited and was only going to be used in certain circumstances.
Well, if you think about the history of the United States, this taking of land is very much the core of the Western arrival in the Americas and taking land from the native people that were here. And it's compounded by the taking of bodies, taking African peoples from Africa and selling them into slavery. So taking that which is not yours and using it and then taking it and making a profit is very much a part of the story of the United States.
What we're talking about is the taking of occupied homes, taking of occupied churches, taking of occupied small businesses that we have been experiencing in this neighborhood and around the city.
I'm one of those targeted as eminent domain. My property sits alone. We've been there for quite some time. I was born and raised in the city of Philadelphia. Now the city has decided that it's our turn.
It's big. 5,334 properties as of June of last year were authorized to be taken. 249 of those that we know of occupied homes, because somebody at the previous meeting corrected me and said that's owner occupied. You don't know how many tenant occupied.
You know what they do too? They tell people, oh, we want to build factory to give the community jobs. You know, that's one of the things they always get the community, and people be like, yeah, because everybody wants to work. Sure. Everybody wants to make money. Yep. But they built it just like they built the factory right here, right behind her home. They say they was going to have many jobs for the people in the community. One job. One job.
If you just knew what you know now,
yep.
Then, you know.
And that's one of the big advantages of government, is that they want to keep people in the dark about it.
Yes, they don't want you to know.
They don't want to tell you about this, because with knowledge, you know, comes
spite. Yes,
and one of the things they will tell you over and over
and
again
power.
Is that
yes.
We're not eminent domain. Oh, we're not talking about eminent domain. And you'll hear this term over and over again all the time. Eminent domain is a last resort.
Yeah.
That's only a last resort. Well, of course, you know, that just means
it's a realm of possibility.
Yeah, well, that just means if you don't allow us to take your property, we're going to force you.
We're going to force it through eminent domain.
Exactly. I always analogize that to the guy who holds a gun up to your head and says your money or your life. He usually doesn't have to pull the trigger to get what he wants, right?
wanted to come out here today for a couple of reasons. One, to make you aware that the city may be interested in this property for redevelopment going on in the area. Two, to get some general information from you, some household information. And three, to let you know what your possible entitlement might be if the city does decide that they would like to acquire your property from you.
You telling me you want my house, okay? Or you may not want my house. How does that sound? I'm 62 years old. You're taking my home. I have worked very hard in here to acquire the little bit that I have acquired. And to me, that you're going to come from the outside and tell me you're going to take my home and you don't have nothing to offer me to make me stable, to make me whole, to tell me what I have to work with?
Well, again, part of this process today.
Your process is wrong.
Part of this process today is to make you aware of.
I'm aware that you want to take my house.
And which you may be entitled to.
So what am I entitled to?
This is an example.
This is an example.
It's an example. If it costs $40,000, if you have to move.
Okay, I'm saying
and you're handled as a homeowner.
Yeah.
And it costs $40,000 for you to go to your new home. And you will offer $20,000 for your unit here. You will get $20,000 for your unit here from acquisition money, and you will get $20,000 from relocation. I represent relocation.
Okay.
And so that would be a total of $40,000, and that would allow you to go into your
mortgage free.
Yeah. If you got one for $40,000.
But we are only using a therapy figure because you know there's nowhere in the world you can get a house for $40,000. Okay? Because if I'm going to get a house for $40,000, I'm going back to another ghetto section, which you're calling blight, that you're going to be redeveloping in no time soon. Okay? I'm already in a blighted section now, but I fix my blighted area up to comfortable for me. So to mean to tell me you're going to take me out of one blighted section and put me in another one, so I know he's only using hypothetical terms because I'm not going anywhere.
And again,
okay?
that's just
I can't go anywhere. I mean, that was the example that you were giving me. Yeah, I know that's I just want to make it clear.
Things could turn out differently.
Oh yeah, things can turn out differently.
If the comparable may be $60,000, you may get, $40,000 for this house.
My intent is to fight for the right to have somewhere to live, and I hope that you can understand that.
Right, and I don't think the intent.
Listen, you work for a place, okay, that somebody has to do this job. I understand that. Somebody's going to get paid to do this job. But you must realize that you work for a place that you're upsetting people's livelihoods, even though it's a job that you have to do. What I'm saying to you is that they need more information. Coming to somebody's home and upsetting them about taking their place. And there's questions that we have a right to know, to get answers. If we've been uprooted from our place, okay, I'm entitled to live the way that I have made myself comfortable to live. And I don't think anything should be less.
And you earned it.
I'll try to have an answer for you, but because one of the things that this whole process contains depends on is your appraisal, the inside appraisal of the unit, because the value of your property determines, in some respects, where you might want to go.
You'll have an answer in terms of the appraisal. Do you have an answer in terms of whether they want to take our house or not?
I'll try to have that for you.
They've already approved the taking. You know that in City Council.
Oh yeah, we know they approved the taking on the 3rd of June. So if there's nothing else, I guess this concludes this year. Is it?
Is there more?
Is there more? Yeah, I'm fine.
Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too.
An interesting thing about a person's home is that it's theirs, it's their home. And the old saying, be it ever so humble, there's no place like home, is profoundly important for us to understand. A place doesn't have to be a castle for it to be meaningful. It's mine. So when the outsider says, ugh, tear down that check. The person inside the house is enraged. But to the extent that the person outside has more power, it's a kind of feudal anger, like railing at the wind. Why are you taking my house from me? This is my house. It keeps the rain off me. What are you doing? We are the hermit crab and this is our shell. We need the shell in order to live. It's not optional. And if it's mine, I don't want you to take it from me. That's brutal. It's ripping off a living part of me. And to the extent that government comes and takes a home, it's such a betrayal.
There was this stable community of almost exclusively black cowboys. You can go to many cities around the country and you won't find a community of cowboys, period.
At one time, there was easy somewhere between 80 and 100 horses, sure? 80 and 100 horses in this area at one time. They said that land wasn't ours up there. They said they owned it. They said they owned the land. And we told them we owned it. And the attitude was as if you can't have anything down here. We're taking it over. They resented the fact that we were here and owned that land up there. Because we didn't know what was planned, but they must have known and sat down with, I'm sure, city officials. So it was all planned.
Most of the things were sold down here.
Okay.
And they promised to give us a stable. And they told us they wanted us to stay out of the business with the rest of the stables because they didn't want us involved with them because they was renters. And we was owners, so they would deal with us separate. So we stayed out all the meetings. And then when it come time, they told us, oh, well, y'all talk to the owners that's buying up all the land around here. And next thing we know, all the stables that they promised us was out of the picture. She had no right to tell us that.
They didn't even come to us as owners to involve us in our own community. This is our community. They never came to us and sat down and say, would you like to be a part of the community? Do you have any interest in the community? They didn't care. You know, they want you out, period.
To me, this is worth millions and millions of dollars to me. This was my life dream, to own my own. And I always rented, all through childhood as I was coming up. Now that I own, here you are again. Someone's ready to take my place and I got to move again.
There were 3 stables that the city acquired through the Redevelopment Authority and eminent domain. The city acquired those properties not because they wanted to keep the horsemen there. They wanted, in fact, to evict them. They never held any meeting with the community to discuss that. Those stables were an important part of our community. They helped to give us an identity. We liked seeing kids riding horses in the summer across that Girard Avenue Bridge across the Schuylkill. We knew that those kids were learning lessons that most kids in town don't get to learn, how to care for another living being.
The city has in its 7 blight criteria, one of them that says unsuitable use or not suitable use, which means that they can say that my house is not bringing in enough money for them. The house I own, paid taxes on, have improved, love, have worked to better, it's not bringing in enough money. So they want to make better use of my land.
If you live in a blighted neighborhood, it is much easier for the government to take your home, to take your business. And the blight laws are something that people need to know about, and they need to be changed as well. For instance, the government doesn't even have to give you notice that your area has been declared blighted.
This area behind us here is about to be designated as a blighted area, and the reason why they want to do that is a major powerful corporation, a very powerful and profitable one here in Pennsylvania, wants to build its new high-rise office building here, and they don't want to pay taxes. So by designating it as a blighted area, they can avoid doing that, paying their fair share of state and local taxes, which is really outrageous when you look at the buildings around us. It's one of the most expensive areas of Center City. We have a high-rise with the Department of Environmental Protection here, major office buildings with major corporations behind us. It really speaks, though, to the power of major profitable corporations and the influence that they have over our elected officials in government, and demonstrates that these decisions aren't always made in the best interest of the public, but they're made in the best interest of friends and allies and wealthy contributors. When big, powerful corporations don't pay their fair share of taxes, that responsibility falls onto the rest of us. Individuals and small businesses will be asked to kick in more to fund vital public services that we care about, and in many cases, we simply won't have the revenue that we need to keep the buses running and to keep the schools open. And that's why we think it's really important that corporations and other profitable businesses pay their taxes.
You're looking at it. This is the blighted area. I just put close to $100,000 in this building. The sign. This is the blighted neighborhood. Just redid the sidewalks. And I can't think of what the cost was a year ago. I look up and down. Here you are. This is the blighted neighborhood.
We're in front of the historic district in Ardmore, which the township is planning on taking down through eminent domain to sell to another developer to renovate downtown Ardmore. VFW is on the corner. This is our Veterans of Foreign War, and I think it's a shame that, especially with the war going on now, that these guys are going to be kicked out of the township. They've been here for many, many years. The next restaurant is the Hunan Chinese restaurant, which has been here for over 30 years. Suburban Office Supply is in their third generation, over 75 years here in Ardmore. And the last store across from the Suburban Office Supply is the Pennywise Thrift Store, which supports Jefferson Hospital, Jefferson University Hospital. But this is a suburban town, and we'd like to keep it a suburban community. But to change the fabric of the main line, I think, is wrong. The people are opposed to it.
You know, they're talking about putting huge buildings up and bringing a lot of people to you know, they said, the one guy said he wanted to be like Center City and Society Hill. That's not what Ardmore's about. It's a town. You can walk up down the streets. You know the owners, they know you, the customers, the neighbors. It's a neighborhood. It's a community.
They want one developer to own all of Ardmore and have control over what businesses come into Ardmore to do, to operate.
Everything is preconceived. They've had closed-door meetings to make decisions on this. That's not how the system's supposed to work.
This is clearly a land grab. This is an example of corporate America controlling and buying up the small businesses in America, and it's really a sad commentary on the small towns of this country.
Something's wrong. Something's fishy.
The main reason that billboards are such a blighting influence on a community is because of their proliferation and their lack of thought as to where they're actually placed. Billboards in Philadelphia can be found on people's homes, across from our churches and schools. They can be seen towering over our playgrounds and our parks. And just the clutter of billboards, even in the approaches into a neighborhood, send a message of disregard for the community, number one, and really that it's a declining community, because you won't see billboards in a prosperous community. You know, it's one thing that those billboards are there and they're towering over our homes and our schools and our churches and playgrounds, and you know, our children are looking at that every day. But it's another if they're breaking the law. And in Philadelphia especially, we've found that there are probably thousands of billboards in the city that are illegal. Billboards are different than other forms of advertising because you get nothing back from a billboard. At least with television, you get to watch a nice show. With a magazine, advertising in a magazine, you get some good fiction or stories. But a billboard gives nothing back to the community, and it's there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in your face, promoting a product and treating you as a consumer rather than a citizen.
But things are happening. Here and there, we can see signs that people are thinking about all these wasted places. Here and there, walls are going down. The shameful walls that cost a lot in suffering and heartbreak for the people who had to live in them.
They just knocked down that one building this morning. When I left here to go with the RDA people, that building was standing up. But now it's down. And the houses across the street, they knocked all of them down. And here come the police. They patrolling here now, and nobody lives here. They're here to protect the construction workers because they done took just about everybody out of here. So why are they patrolling now? When we needed them, we couldn't get them, we couldn't find them. Those people are going in the next takings, but look at the new houses going up down there. The new houses are going up, and we're not going to be able to come back here to live because you're going to have to be checked out. And if you don't qualify, you're not going to be able to get anything. So a whole lot of people around here ain't going to qualify. That's including me.
I'm 66 years old, and I think I'm a little too old to go around and try to start paying rent someplace else.
And they don't care nothing about no age. When they finish with these little streets here, do you think they're going to build beautiful stuff and let all this stuff stay around here like this? No, it's not going to happen.
Nobody haven't sent me a letter. No one have come in contact with me to ask me about my home.
If you haven't gotten a letter, you don't have to worry about it right now. Right. But I just want you to be a little bit more prepared than what I was, because I know that they're coming back between now. When they finish this with this list they have here now, they're going to move right to the next list. Yes. And you're in the taking of the next list.
But I will try to fight for my property because I worked too hard for it.
I understand.
I worked too hard and too long for it. And I'm now, one thing, I'm not that healthy to be getting around. I don't get around as much as I used to.
Right.
But I just hope they just know what they're doing.
Well, they don't know what they're doing, I can tell you that. But they're going to do it anyway.
What has this planned city come to? Has it worked? Or has it lost its plan? The city was built to be whatever it wished to be. The red brick 19th century town changed with the coming of concrete, steel, electricity. A great force in the world. Big, energetic, triumphant, turning out locomotives, textiles, tools, and the machinery of defense. The town growing all the time. People moving in all the time. The big city reaching out. For this city can be what it wishes to be. It can produce whatever it wishes to produce. Riches of any kind. Waste of any kind. Beauty of any kind.
One of the things that's happened as a result of processes reshaping the city is that the poor have been systematically moved away from downtown and a more beautiful city erected around downtown. So the poor have become hidden and marginalized and often placed in a section of the city that's cut by highways and where there are no bus transportation routes, so that the city becomes inaccessible to the poor. So in essence, we're saying that the poor have no right to be in the city.
Most of the people around here are poor people, elderly people, okay? So they don't have the means of paying $1,500 a year in taxes or $2,000 a year in taxes, because once they build the new homes in this area, you know, taxes go up.
Right.
Okay? So when the taxes go up and the home that I'm in now that I pay $174 a year taxes, when they say they take this and rebuild it over, if the person lives long enough and they happen to pay for their home, they will be looking at a $2,000 tax bracket per year.
Okay.
So that means that they have to be viable people.
We believe that the rents are going to increase dramatically. The property values are going to increase dramatically. And the property taxes, therefore, are going to increase dramatically. And it's an easy step to go from, you know, lots of black folks in a blighted community to no black folks because we've been priced out. Folks, today we're talking about what's happening in this neighborhood. There is an absolute, undeniable war going on right now. And war is not too strong for what's happening. Our future in this community is in danger. It's a process called gentrification. It's the replacement of the poor with those who are better off. We won't have a chance here unless we identify what's happening to us and take proactive steps to stop it. I'm going to walk around and I'm going to find a couple of people and I'm just going to ask, how do you feel?
For over 2 years, they've been sending me letters from real estate companies. They talk about, we want to put your house on the market. We'll give you $50,000, we'll give you $75,000. I had that kind of money before. That money don't last. Meantime, I'm one of the very few owners around there. You got an army of renters in the Kabah Street and other streets where I'm at. They all gonna be put out the street. Some are being put out right now. They're getting hurt. They ain't got no place to go, and the housing shortage in the city. I'm talking about the renters and the homeowners. Where you gonna go?
When he said that if you rent, that's to say you don't own your home, you're in grave danger, let me tell you, you are the first ones to leave the neighborhood. Market forces will guarantee that if you rent in this neighborhood, you will not have a future here.
The city of Philadelphia raised my real estate taxes to push us out, and many senior citizens down in Fairmount have been pushed out because the new so-called newcomers come into the neighborhood. They want our houses, and they're going very good at getting them. And that's important. I'm paying more in 1 year in real estate taxes than I did to buy my house. Now, and the city told me, when I went down to tax appeal, they told me to move out. I said, my family been in this parish since the 1860s. I went to school here, my family's here, and they told me, move out if you don't like it.
We need to be proud about where we live. If we constantly tell our children this place isn't worth anything, then when they grow up, they'll leave. Or when they grow up and they stay, they won't take care of it. It may not be happening to you yet. And you may not care that somebody else is getting kicked out. You may not care that the block around the corner has the drugs. But if you keep saying that, by the time you look around, everybody else will be gone, and you'll be the last person to get kicked off that block. So help your neighbors out. That's right. Get invested into your community. Keep your young people around. Get the schools together. And teach them that their neighborhood is something to be proud of, that they need to invest in their communities, and we need our young black professionals to move back home. Thank you.
Great. That was fantastic.
Yes,
we definitely need you to help out with some of our community.
Save our neighborhood, we don't want to move. Save our neighborhood, we don't want to move. Save our neighborhood, we don't want to move.
The Blight Plan was a plan to get the communities on board to improving their community. But what they didn't realize is that part of improving their community was getting the people who the people living in these houses, people living in these neighborhoods, signed on to a plan that got them out. Because they were the blight. The blight wasn't the broken down houses. But that was actually speculation. That was actually property that they could go and grab up and sell back off. But the people were the problem.
Took back my dignity. I took back my humanity. Well, I went down to the mayor's house and I took back what we're giving them. This is a protest about the mayor demanding to stop taking occupied homes and affordable housings for families that need them. There's children that's going to be displaced because their mom don't have a home, and he's going and asking for more money to demolish more properties, and we need to fix them up, not tear them down. If they want to stay, they should be allowed to stay and be a part of the progress, not destroy communities and have people move to other areas knowing that they're going to destroy that area too. Thank you.
They're taking our homes through eminent domain to give to developers, and they're not giving people homes who need the homes. And there's different ones of us that will be speaking today that are going through this right now.
My home has been targeted for eminent domain. We received a condemnation letter. I've lived in this home all of my life, all of my brothers and sisters, my mother, my father, my grandparents. The city has offered us $12,000 to leave. We will not go. Today is us. Tomorrow, it may be you. Thank you.
Mary Sanders, come right on over. I know your knees are give you a hard time if you want to lean up.
I'm fine, thank you.
Good. Who came around the other day, recently, to your window from the city?
One of the relocation men. He came around and said he was there to relocate me.
And what did you tell him?
I told him to relocate himself off my steps. I want to live there. Where am I going to go?
If you can come up with money for second stadiums and other things for people in this city, you could do things for human beings and citizens that live and contribute to our neighborhoods. So if we're really going to support these brothers and sisters, we're going to begin to get organized to do the kinds of sit-ins into all of these properties that we have to, and say we're not leaving until you give these families a good deal. That they're not going to sell for things like $12,000. What's that going to get them? Another property in North Philadelphia that'll put them on the eminent domain list again?
Yes. Yes.
We don't want that. We want decent, affordable, accessible housing for all of us. Thank you.
I don't know how they're doing it. I guess one side is going, they got this side for storage, and this is side they got to take with. They turned off my electric, and they turned off my phone. They weren't supposed to do this until tomorrow. So, but they did it today. And now we're working in the dark, and I can't see how to get half of my stuff out of here. I am simply worn out and tired, you know, and this is a good thing and a bad thing. Yes,
check this here out. Is these here going?
Is what going?
These speakers and stuff here, you taking them with you?
No, I'm not taking none of that with me.
Okay, just the stuff out of here, right?
I'm taking those, I'm taking that set, and I guess I'm going to take the wall unit because I see it's big enough to take over there, so I have something to sit that on. I'll always remember this house because this is the house that'll have more memories than any other house would ever have. You know, because my parents were here. And what can I do? I just go along with the program. So, now we move on to the next one.
The natural evolution of things is that there's enough land and enough space for all of us. We can share this land. There's vacant land. Build it. Build moderate income. But don't take people out to build it.
It is a bad
bad time to be poor.